everyone, I am Dr. Sonal Jain from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. In this series of forensic science lecture, today we are going to discuss about various types of crime. In the previous series, we have discussed about the syndicate crime, organized crime and a bit about the serial crime. Today we are going to discuss about the serial crimes and the white collar crimes. As we have discussed that the serial criminals are the repeated offenders who repeat their crimes, whether it is serial murder, serial rape, serial stalking, serial arson, etc. But what is the reason why are these criminals are involved in such activities that they are repetitively conducting or convicting of certain crimes? What are the reasons that these criminals are termed as serial criminals? Why the reason behind certain criminals they conduct a crime because of rage or they need one time gain. But there are certain biosocial or physiological factors or psychological factors which affect certain persons and they become serial criminals. Let's go about and see what are these biosocial and psychological factors. The first one is depression. If a person is in deep depression because of his or her family situation or loss of job or loss of any family member or any other disease that might lead to the serial crime activity. He may or she may be a psychotic where the loss of contact with reality is there. He might be affected with organic brain disorder, or the person is a psychopathic in nature which is relating to or affected with an antisocial personality disorder, or person might have a passive or aggressive behavior nature. He might be an alcoholic which is leading him for such activities. He might show hysterical behavior, exhibiting excessive or uncontrollable emotion such as fear or panic. A person could be juvenile in nature, that the child was a killer. He could be a juvenile delinquent. A mentally retarded person might involved in a serial killing activity, or the sex killers who get involved in such activities after conducting a sexual act. They might kill the persons they are involved in the sexual acts with. The psychological factors in this development of serial murder have sometimes included obvious abuse or emotional isolation in childhood, which lead to the formation of dysphasic personality, head injury or brain pathology, traumatic experiences and feelings. Because of the various experiences which a person might have experienced during his childhood, whether there were certain issues in the family or he or she might not have received the good education. If the childhood experiences are bad, they might lead to the development of such psychological factors which lead a person to become a serial murderer. For the serial criminal himself, the childhood is also marked by personal problems. The serial killer feels more aggression than any average child because of all the environmental and other things which he has faced during his or her childhood while growing up. The childhood pre-killer has a difficult time distinguishing fantasy and play from reality. He has a rebellious and aggressive nature which is lying constantly and bully other children when given the chance. So, a person who is involved in such serial activities, there are certain biosocial or psychological reasons which make the persons to commit such serial killing activities. Either they are being bullied, either they are the result of rebellious or aggressive nature, or they are the result of family fights, etc. But as the years pass, the future killer's reliance on fantasy only increases. With increased isolation, leads to even more anger, antisocial acts, increased reliance on fantasy, and more drinking problems. Sometimes a serial killer might be influenced by certain religions, who turns his homicidal madness towards category whom he believes deserve to be eliminated for the good for the society. They might think that the prostitutes or the call girls give a bad name to the society, so he takes the responsibility on himself of clearing up the society and might starts killing a persons from same religion or the person who are involved in certain categories, certain works like prostitutes. If we talk about the interventions or treatment for psychotherapy, the psychological damage to the serial criminal is so extensive as to preclude healing, and that treatment is likely only to accomplish one of the two best things. The best treatment enables a serial killer to socialize within the open population in prison, and the worst is the treatment enables a killer to appear psychological healthy to others for purpose of manipulation. So, a serial crime is one that is repetitive, one that is committed by an habitual offender who usually commits the same type of crime and in the same manner. They have a habit, if they are using a knife or a particular weapon in each and every offense which they are repeating or crime which they are conducting, they will carry the same type of weapon. Legal codes typically do not define serial crime, so this type of crime does not have any definitive elements, because this is just by the name, by the act, if a person who is conducting this act. There are several types of serial crimes, including serial murder, serial rape, serial arson, bombings, and even some juvenile crimes. Murders by serial killers are the category that most people think of when hearing the term serial regarding the crime. But serial killer is not the only category which is in the serial murderers or serial killings or serial crimes. There are serial bombings also, there are serial arsons also. The US FBI has defined serial murder as the murder of two or more people in separate events, and certain other countries they define them as when 3 or 4 people are being murdered, then they define it as the serial murderer. As we spoke, the other serial crimes are serial arson, serial rape, where the crime typically is meeting the same criteria as serial murder, 3 or more victims with a period of time in between each rape. Same goes for the serial arsonist, bombers, robbers, stalkers, and juvenile serial crime. Of all kinds which have some factors in common, the serial crime results from a passion, the love to kill, the pride of the fire set, the joy of seeing victims in fear or crying, or even a sexual release that is possible only by committing the serial crime. Many experts believe that some or most serial criminals have abused as children, or perhaps they suffered a great loss. So, it was the reason of their childhood negligence, adverse childhood adversities. For this reason, these persons get involved in certain crimes and then they are being tagged by society as serial offenders. Now, another major category of type of crime are the white collar crime. If we go by the definition of the white collar crime, it is an illegal act or series of illegal acts committed by non-physical means and by concealment or guilt to obtain money or property or to obtain business or personal advantage. So, the white collar crime is generally committed by those persons where they want to obtain money for their property or for certain advantages, which is personal advantage. The term white collar crime was coined in the year 1930 by Edwin Sutherland, who defined it as a crime committed by a person of respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. So, the white collar criminals, they are living a second life where they have their occupations running, they have a respectable position in the society, they have maintained a high social status, and still they are involved in certain white collar crimes. As per the NCRB, white collar crimes are categorized under economic offences. They not only inflict pecuniary losses on individuals, but also damage the national economy and have security implications as well. The offence of smuggling of narcotic substances, counterfeiting of currency and valuable securities, financial scams, frauds, money laundering, etc. These are all part of economic offences, or they can also be classified as the white collar crimes, where the people are involved in big financial scams, the illicit smuggling of drugs, frauds, various money laundering services, etc. Now, coming to the occupational crimes, the crimes committed by individuals in the course of their employment. Professional occupational crimes are the crimes committed by professionals such as physicians and lawyers in the course of their practices. The higher the prestige of the occupation, the more their criminal activities cost to the general public. So, the occupational crimes, they are done by various persons who have respectable jobs. They are high society jobs, like they are doctors, physicians, they are working in the courts as lawyers, practitioners, etc. And as higher the prestige of their occupation is, the criminal cost is being borne by the general public. The occupational crimes are also being done by the person where they have their course of their regular employment and they are involved in other criminal activities. The elements of occupational crime involved the violation of legal codes. It takes place directly or indirectly in connection with the legal occupation. The main aim of the occupational crime is to gain money. The crime is against the society at large. A person of any class violating law in the course of occupational activity is described as an occupational offender. Majorly, the persons who are involved in the occupational crime, they have certain legitimate business running, and as a part they are doing some illegitimate activities. So, the people are not even aware of the persons who are in respectable positions which are involved in the occupational crimes. The organization that is involved in such crimes selects a crime that is high stakes but negligible danger of detection and identification. That means, if any person is involved in occupational crime, the money they are getting in return is a lot, but the danger of being detected and identified is really negligible. It is a crime against which the victim are least likely to fight. The offender, they consider themselves as a respectable member of the society and they are involved in other social NGOs, etc., and no one can even doubt whether they are involved in certain occupational crimes. The effect of the occupational crimes are more serious for society than the ordinary crimes, because in certain cases we are not able to identify that who is involved in such activities, and thus the illicit crimes which they are involved in, like the money launderings or the drug trafficking or the arms and ammunition trafficking, that becomes a serious issue for the society. There are various types of occupational crimes. The crimes committed by persons on an individual basis, for example, income tax evasion, bankruptcy frauds, credit purchases or taking loans with no intention to pay back, and insurance frauds. The major committers of this credit purchases or taking loans is the owner of the Kingfisher company, where that is one of the occupational crime. They will take loan or credit purchases from the bank and they never return to the bank. The crimes committed in the course of occupation by those operating in the business government in violation of their duty of loyalty to the employer or client. For example, if a person has a higher position in the administrative services or the revenue services, the foreign services, forest services, etc., they are involved in the bribery, kickbacks, embezzlement, etc. So the persons who are involved in the occupational crimes, they are mostly violating their duty of loyalty towards their employer and they also try to evade money by income tax evasion, etc. The crimes which are incidental to and in furtherance of business operations, but they are not central to business purposes, are also occupational crimes, which are food and drug violations, misrepresentation in advertising, prescription fraud, crime as a business or as the central activity of a business. For example, some people, they launch the medical fraud schemes, lottery fraud schemes, mutual fund fraud schemes, land and real estate frauds, charity and religious frauds, and music pirating. All these comes under the categories of the occupational crimes. Now the effects of white collar crimes. The financial loss to society is more serious than the ordinary economic crimes committed by the people of the lower economic strata. If a person of a lower economic strata or the lower economic status, he is committing a crime that is economically, which is directed to single person. If he is committing robbery, or he is looting one person, then that is specific to a single person. But when we are talking about a white collar crime, it is on a very larger scale. These crimes include the money, which is thousands of crores, lakhs of crores. But a person who is a normal criminal, who is not a white collar criminal, he might commit a crime which is mostly certain thousands or certain lakhs of rupees and maximum few crores. So if we look at the bigger picture, the financial loss from the white collar crimes to society is very, very serious. Recent examples of white collar crimes are various builders who are running away with the innocent money of various people, and they are building their own new buildings and they are not working on their previous projects. So this is also one of the white collar crimes, where the builders have pending projects or the various businessmen who have taken certain credit purchases from various banks and not returning. So in a bigger picture, this white collar crimes are a big financial loss, economic loss for our society. But the ordinary crimes, they cause inconvenience to the victims or community disturbance. The white collar crime spreads feelings of distress, they lower the public morale, they produce social disorganization. Certain white collar crimes also give rise to certain religious crimes. If we talk about the statistics of the white collar offenders and normal offenders, the white collar offenders are rarely prosecuted and punished because they usually get away with the help of their money or with the help of their political powers which they have in hand. The protection to society against white collar crime is too meager as it is blocked by various vested interests of various big people of higher economic status. Now coming how the youth are involved in the crime. Of the persons which are arrested in the last 3 years, we find that an average 2.6% were below 18 years, 51% belong to 18 to 30 years and 38% belong to 30 to 50 age group, whereas only 7% were above the 50 age group. Thus, about half of the offenders were young and young adults. The data on age structure of offenders as given in crime is that the youth offenders are more in this era, which are in the age group of 16 to 25 years of age group. The crime trends among youth is increasingly very high. This comes to about 6,962 crimes per day. The ratio of crime by the youth under the IPC to crime under the local and special laws is 1:2.8, establishing the fact that the youth crime is not so serious in its nature. The ratio of felonies of murder, rape, kidnapping, burglary, dacoity to misdemeanors is 1:2.3. Volume of crime against person is about 3 times the crime committed against property, and the volume of crime by adults is about 20% more than those committed by the youth. So the people who are in the age group of 16 to 25 years of age group, the crime is lesser, but the volume committed by the adults, young adults and the old adults in the age group of 25 to 50 is more. If we classify the youth criminals, they can be classified on the basis of causes of youth crime, which is emotional. They carried away by emotions of anger, hatred, etc. Victim and police harassment, and the perverts, youths who violate ethical and moral standards. They have identity problems. Certain youth which are termed as criminals, it's accidental because of their helping nature, but they get entrapped. Media products, youth who are creators of movies, TV serials, etc. And situational, poor youth who took to illegal ways to earn money. Then the youth in crime can be defined on the type of crime committed, who commit crime which have no relation to material gain, who commit crime for financial gains, who are falsely implicated, and who violates the civil laws and not the criminal's law. On the basis of personality, pseudo criminals who commit a criminal act but not seriously out of social control, real criminals who have imbibed criminal values and do not have any guilt feelings, and amoral criminals, youth who have failed to learn the moral values of the family and the society. Then on the relationship between personality type and adjustment, non-idealist, non-enthusiastic young people who progressively become disillusionist, rigid, biased with a constricted outlook. They never listen to other opinions and considers only their opinion as a rational opinion. And non-adjuster, a youth who lacks the will to understand the tradition and innovation. So, on the basis of what type of crime a person is committing, how the youth has become a criminal, and how is his relationship between the personality type and adjustment, that on that basis we can define the youth and how that youth has become a crime. Based on the effectiveness for the purpose of correction, minor perverts, youth involved in petty offences and have economic personal problems, they should be released on probation. Victims of harassment who participate only in a small degree in crime, and they should be kept in special corrective homes. Tough and defiants, those who participate to a higher degree in crime and identified with illegitimate standards, they should be kept in prisons. And integrated, who deviate from norms under specific circumstances, and they should be kept in special corrective homes. There are certain youths who are being described as the manipulators. They manipulate powers using dishonest tricks and get privileges illegally. They should also be kept in special corrective home. Coming to when we have seen that a large number of youth who is the future of our country are involved in criminal activities, certain corrective measures should be taken to help those youth to come out of those crimes and behave as a respectable citizen. There should be setup of various correctional homes where these youth should work, reshaping of police subculture for winning the trust of the youth, legal aid to be provided for the poor youth, legally if they are not having any job because of in fact during the low rate of not getting any particular position, they might also get involved in various type of crime. Courts need to be restructured for providing appellant facilities where they can appeal if sometimes youth get involved in certain illegal activities and they have to come out of those activities, then these corrective measures should be taken off. There should not be any class bias. New work programs should be introduced, effective aftercare programs to be introduced, and strengthening of the support system. So, putting all together, in conclusion, if we have to lower the rate of the crime amongst the youth, the persons who are being termed as the youth criminals, certain type of correctional facilities should be set up. For the interventions, it should be asked whether what are the reasons that these youth are being involved in these activities. Sometimes because of their behavior, the police, they are not able to direct or ask questions which are involved in such reshaping of youth. So, we must work together for this to providing legal aid to the poor youth, and they can help in making a society where the criminal rate among the youth should be less. The courts which are there, they should have proper appellant facilities that if in any case by any manner the youth are involved in certain crimes and they want to appeal out of the case, the proper facilities should be provided. And in conclusion, we should look for the factors which have made the youth to behave in a particular way and how those interventions can be taken up in the society. Thank you.